Welcome to today's video about our 1:48 scale Spitfire Mk VB. The Mk V represents a significant stage in the development of the Spitfire. Having learned from the success of the Mk I during the Battle of Britain, the time had come to improve the breed. The Spitfire Mk II had begun the process, and it was intended that the Spitfire Mk III was to become the new production aircraft. With revised flaps, engine, wing and undercarriage, development ceased when Rolls-Royce produced the Merlin 45 engine. This new power plant could fit, with additional strengthening, into the existing Spitfire airframe. Designated the Mk V, these new Spitfires had three wing variants, A, B and C. The A wing carried 8 303 machine guns, the B wing carried 2 20mm cannon and 4 303 machine guns, and the C wing carried 4 20mm cannon and 4 303 machine guns. The 5B variant was the most widely used as it provided an excellent balance in firepower without too great a weight penalty. Indeed, many Spitfire 5Cs had the outer cannon removed to save weight. 92 Squadron was the first to receive the new Spitfire Mk V in February 1941. Initially these were modified Spitfire Mk Is until the new Mk Vs started to flow from the factories. Modifications were constantly being made to improve the Mk V's performance and rate of roll at low altitude. The 5B was one of the most successful Spitfire variants, with most fighter squadrons flying the Mk V by December 1941. This is surprising as the Mk V was only considered a stopgap until something better came along. It was the first fighter version of the Spitfire to see service overseas, and was supplied to several foreign air forces. By 1942, the strategic importance of the small Mediterranean island of Malta had become highly apparent to both sides in the war. Its defence and security was of paramount importance to the Allies. Early defence of the besieged island had been valiantly carried out by only a handful of Hurricanes and Gladiators, but reinforcements were urgently needed. On the 7th of March 1942, Operation Spotter was launched, which saw the first Spitfires delivered to Malta. This was the first deployment of the Spitfire outside the United Kingdom. At dawn, 16 Spitfire Mk VBs in tropical specification with additional fuel tanks took off from HMS Eagle near the coast of Algeria for the 660-mile flight to Malta. Further Spitfires were supplied to replace losses via USS Wasp, which was employed after the direct request of Churchill to Roosevelt. Several squadrons operated from Malta, but it was 249 Squadron that had perhaps the most famous of the pilots, Pilot Officer George Beurling. He was born in 1921 in Verdun, Quebec, into a religious family and was the third of 5 children. George Beurling began to develop an interest in flying at the age of 6 when his father built him a model aircraft. He first took to the controls of an aircraft in 1933 and was flying solo in 1938. Beurling joined the Royal Air Force in September 1940. Having survived 1 or 2 aerial misdemeanours, Beurling reached No. 7 Operational Training Unit at RAF Hawarden in September 1941. Beurling demonstrated considerable skill in training. He came under the influence of the great Ginger Lacey, whose score at the time stood at 27. Lacey later commented about Beurling, "There are no two ways about it. He was a wonderful pilot and an even better shot." These two factors, coupled with the exceptional eyesight, were the keys to Beurling's later success. But they did not come without effort. At Hawarden, he immersed himself in gunnery, estimation of range, deflection, bullet trail and bullet droop, imprinting them into his subconscious until they were automatic. For him, flying and shooting became one single action. Beurling landed on Malta on the 9th of June 1942, part of Operation Salient, after having taken off from the deck of HMS Eagle in one of 32 Spitfires. He had his baptism of fire in the mid-morning of the 12th of June, when with 3 other pilots from 249, the formation intercepted 8 Bf-109s. Beurling claimed to have blown off the tail of a 109, but nobody saw it hit the ground, so he was credited with the damaged. After that, Beurling claimed a series of kills that had no equal on the Mediterranean island. His nickname on the island was Screwball, an expletive he had a habit of using. On the 6th of July 1942, with other pilots from 249, he attacked a formation of 3 Cants, 14 Reggianis and more than 24 Macchis. He almost certainly shot down 2 Macchis. He made a third claim that day, a Messerschmitt, hit from a distance of 800 yards, and was credited with 3 victories in his first proper air battle at Malta. By the 14th of October, Beurling had claimed his 27th and final kill over Malta. Having been shot down and wounded, he was sent back to Britain on the 31st of October 1942. On the way, the B-24 transport he was aboard crashed into the Sea of Gibraltar. Beurling was one of only 3 survivors. On the 4th of November, he received the Distinguished Service Order. The citation reads as follows. Since being awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross, Pilot Officer Beurling has destroyed a further 6 enemy aircraft, bringing his total victories to 28. During one sortie on the 13th of October 1942, he shot down a Junkers 88 and 2 Messerschmitt 109s. The following day, in a head-on attack on enemy bombers, he destroyed one of them before he observed his leader being attacked by an enemy fighter. Although wounded, Pilot Officer Beurling destroyed the fighter. Then, climbing again, although his aircraft was hit by enemy fire, he shot down another fighter, before his own aircraft was so damaged that he was forced to abandon it. He descended safely into the sea and was rescued. This officer's skill and daring are unexcelled. The battle for Malta continued until the 16th of October, when it became clear to General Feldmarschall Kesselring that the Luftwaffe could not sustain such heavy losses in the face of such a strong Allied fighter force, and the siege was called off. The beleaguered Luftwaffe were needed elsewhere, in the deserts of North Africa. On the 20th of November, a relief convoy finally reached Malta, to the jubilation of all its inhabitants. In recognition for the island's resistance to the sustained attack of the Axis forces, George VI awarded the George Cross to the island on April 15, 1942. This is an award only for acts of the greatest heroism or the most conspicuous courage in circumstances of extreme danger. The George Cross is the civilian equivalent to the Victoria Cross, with only 408 being awarded to date. Malta proudly displays a representation of its George Cross on its flag. Over Malta, George Beurling had claimed over 27 kills in just 14 days, by far the highest total by an RAF pilot during the campaign. He finished the war with a total of 31 1/3 kills, and is recognised as Canada's most famous hero of the Second World War. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel for more histories, builds, how-tos and vlogs. For more information on our models, why not visit our website? Happy collecting!